So, wish time again. How many people in here would characterize themselves as geeks? Okay, any Star Trek fans? So we want to have a Star Trek talk now.
Yes.
Andras, are you here? Yeah, I'm kidding. Unfortunately, Andras can't be with us today. He's got COVID and couldn't travel. But he was fit enough to leave us a video of his presentation. Here we go.
Hi, I'm András G Pintér, one of the hosts of the European Skeptics Podcast and president of the Hungarian Skeptics Society. First of all, let me thank the organizers of SkeptiCamp Manchester 2022 for allowing me to give my presentation in a pre-recorded form. Even though I've been waiting, just like probably all of you, for this weekend since the last QED in 2018. 10 days ago, I turned out to have been infected at work with COVID-19. And since I still haven't fully recovered yet, I had to make the toughest decision and stay away from the event and all of you lovely people. I cannot tell you how sorry I am about that, but I'm also very grateful that I can still have my slot today. So what am I going to be talking about in the next, well, almost 10 minutes? Something that I'm sure a lot of you share my enthusiasm about, and that is Star Trek and the world of Star Trek and how it can provide humanity with great ideas as to how to survive the future. So I think I'll start with the fact that it's no surprise to anyone here that right at the core of the world of Star Trek, there's scientific endeavor and discovery, and that could not be demonstrated better than by the famous lines of the opening theme that outlines what the 5-year mission of the Starship Enterprise is. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you could say along with me, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. But the final frontier that space is can also be interpreted as the frontiers of science. And in fact, science, technology, and innovation are so deeply embedded in the Star Trek universe that the society depicted there treats it with a very high degree of respect and also understanding. So much so that the level of societal development that we see in that universe has been made possible by the achievements brought about by science. And there is one organization that elevates discovery, the acquiring of knowledge, and systematic learning to a whole new level, and that is Starfleet Academy, the motto of which is simply Ex Astris Scientia, which could be translated as something along the lines of knowledge from the stars. So no wonder the greatest heroes of any starship or space station are those characters with the highest standards when it comes to knowing stuff and acquiring knowledge about the universe and about how the universe works. Like science officers, they are absolute heroes. They are among the highest ranking officers of any starship or space station. They are highly trained, often into several different scientific disciplines, with a special aptitude for applying logic. No wonder that Vulcans have a tendency to go high up on those ranks, but they're not exclusive. But some kind of special ability to acquire knowledge and store it and combine it in a different way is an advantage that, for example, Commander Data did have, and something that Jadzia Dex had as well, with several lifetimes of accumulation of that knowledge. So they are very badass, but there is another type of character that takes being a badass to a whole new level. The tech gurus, the people who make things work by just knowing warp drives, plasma manifolds, couplings, and conduits inside and out, and always thinking on their feet. The reason, I believe, why Star Trek usually works very well with all kinds of nerds, including skeptics, is that these people are the real heroes in the Star Trek universe. Not the tough guys who can beat everyone up, not the ones who can drive faster than anyone, but the geeks, the brainy people, the smart ones, and it's uplifting. But probably my favorites among them are the medical officers. I mean, among the heroes. Not only are they always on top of their game, but they also represent the forefront of science whilst saving lives. They often attend conferences and seminars as well, publish papers, and ask for second opinions regarding their discoveries and results. And that is a very unique thing about Star Trek, because that makes Star Trek the only one in the world of science fiction where they walk you through the processes of scientific endeavor. In almost all of the series and some of the movies, they do that. It's just one thing that its methods are considered applicable to every single problem that our heroes encounter. I mean, it's a scientific method. But the way they apply it is very similar to how it's done in real life. It's often not individual scientists, engineers, and science officers who make a real progress and come up with brilliant solutions, but it's a team effort with lots of debates and consultations along the way. Isn't that how science is done? And it's always about measurements and calibrations, the objective truth that one is looking for. Let it be assessing a situation or finding a way out of one. So with all that established, the question emerges, can we bring some of this awesomeness depicted in Star Trek and the world of Star Trek over to our real world and implement these kinds of attitudes in our society? One could argue that there is a lot of this happening in our society, but we have worrying tendencies as well, because we have so many issues to deal with, all of which we need to find a solution to if we are to survive. And we probably all agree that science, well, everyone being here probably agrees that science is the way to go. Science will provide us with solutions. We have to find the right solutions, but it will be based on science. So it's not a value judgment that science makes, but the value judgments have to be made on solid ground that science provides. If we list only the immediate global challenges, a couple of urgent ones come to mind, from climate change to environmental pollutions, famine and drought, and the energy crisis, past, present, and future pandemics, and all those diseases that humanity has to face. Can we take a few examples then from the Star Trek universe and try to apply them to our real world? I say, why not? Let's see a couple of them. As it's often mentioned in hindsight in some Star Trek series and movies, humanity in this fictional world has found a way out of overpolluting the air and changing the global climate by ending the era of utilizing fossil fuels and realizing that the air we breathe needs to be suitable for living in for us and all other current life forms. No matter what the situation, environmental control of closed living spaces is always regenerative, with no waste produced whatsoever. But it applies to open environments too. Purification of air, getting rid of pollutants at some point became a priority for the humanity of Star Trek. Too bad it was only after the Third World War, however, that got close to wiping out our species and many others with it. But with no waste generated, feeding the planet is something that is also no longer such a burden on the environment. Not even any crew living in space suffers from the lack of available materials, because replicator technology makes virtually anything easy to produce as long as you have a sufficient amount of energy available. And since the idea of recycling is central to the use of all materials, from clothing people wear, all the way to the food we take in or the air we breathe, the whole system is so sustainable that measures of value like money are no longer needed, which takes away societal differences. And in such a society, the idea of people going without food is no longer acceptable. So famine is dealt with. Dealing with drought comes from dealing with the environment and climate change as well. But all of that brings up yet another problem. one that humanity currently has to deal with very urgently, but Star Trek has figured it all out. Energy has become the most important commodity. So what is Star Trek's answer to that problem? It starts out by using renewables, nuclear reactors, but then with the advent of fusion reactors and all kinds of new technologies that build on nuclear fusion, the supply of energy available is plentiful without it taking a toll on the environment. Now, of course, it's never without risks, something that is demonstrated by the death of Spock at the end of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But regulations and precautions make all these technologies safe enough to have them around. Is that a familiar problem? Well, nuclear fission-based reactors are probably among our best options for now, until fusion reactors are available. But we need to be smart about this. And one other thing that we need to be smart about is healthcare, both on a societal and an individual level. First, we need to restore the prestige of science, and especially medical science. We've seen what happened over the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Science denial has become the new thing. And there is a disconnect between the amazing latest achievements of science and the public understanding of all of it. We need the level of respect for science seen in Star Trek to be able to move on and benefit from all that we can do with it. Diagnostic tools like a medical tricorder are probably too far off still, but we are getting there. We have amazing imaging equipment, blood tests that can be used for identifying all kinds of illnesses, and there is a growing number of non-invasive technologies that can be used for these purposes as well. Biofilters would certainly be among the most welcome options, but we'll just have to be patient until they are available. So the question is, can we, and if so, are we willing to learn from a fictional world? The Star Trek universe may be a utopia, but it's not totally unrealistic when it comes to societal achievements, mostly made possible by the advent of science and technology. There are exceptions to that, of course, chiefly that of interstellar travel, but who cares? If we learn to make a better life for ourselves here on Earth, it's going to be worth our while, even if we're stuck in the solar system. And I, for one, believe Star Trek should be the example we follow. And if we manage to avoid World War III along the way, all the better. Science is the key to a better future if we learn to make the best of it. Human society depicted in Star Trek has achieved that. Now it's up to us to do the same. So thank you very much for your attention, and let me do a shameless plug here of a book that probably not many of you will read anyway, because it's in Hungarian. But I'm so proud to be among all those who wrote essays on the parallels between our real world and fictional ones from different points of view. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Enjoy.
Thank you
Hi.
very much, Andras. I do hope you're watching, because you may think you've got away with not answering any questions, but you haven't, because you have a stand-in. And we're just going to take a couple of questions from the audience, which Andras 2.0, sat next to me here, is going to take. The first question is from Igor, who asks, how do we ensure we transition into Star Trek egalitarian utopia and not into Star Wars with their murderous spaceballs and something else?
Two answers. One, I don't know. Number two, it's just a TV series.
And one more question, final question from Bremner, who asks, in Star Trek, what came first, the end of capitalism or the embrace of science?
Your guess is as good as mine. I'll throw that back at the audience. We're now doing a lunch break, so you have time to discuss that question amongst yourself. As Cleo already mentioned, there might be a report at the end, so we're waiting your written submissions. Other than that, we're going for lunch now. We'll be back. We'll be starting on time at 5 minutes to 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Sorry, 2 o'clock. 5 minutes to 2. So until then, get nourished, get something to drink, and hopefully we'll see you again.